at the largest engineering camps in America for Black children. And because you're in Denver, one of my Seek camps was in Denver, and Seek is an acronym that stands for Summer Engineering Experience for Kids. I had over 300 kids in that camp.
All right, welcome to another edition of the Journey to Freedom podcast. And I'm Dr. B, your host. And just each time I get to do this, each time I get the opportunity to spend with people that are doing something in our world, that are making a difference, that are making a change. Not only do I get to learn, but you guys will be able to take the information given in this podcast, and hopefully be able to not only transform your lives, but make your lives better. That you can look at Journey to Freedom, and we can say, when I think about freedom, I think about our ability to be able to move through this existence that we have here, in my case, in America, in Denver, Colorado, and in Dr. Mack's case, and, on the East Coast, and being able to do it in a way, one that serves others. I think we are folks that I would say everybody that I've interviewed so far has a heart for helping others be able to have the same kind of success, or the same kind of transformation, or the same kind of being able to move through life in a way where we're not stuck in what we were told in our past. Our past is so vitally important. The folks that came before us, so vitally important. The things that they did, the things that they went through, so vitally important for us to know about, but not be stuck in their existence. An example that I give often is, I'm part of the NAACP here in the local chapter in Denver. And one of the things that we do at a lot of our meetings is we read our minutes. And I think about the folks who came before us that weren't able to read, or weren't able to express themselves through, the written word. And so minutes were read so everybody that was in the meeting could understand the meeting. And then I fast forward into 2024, and there's not a person that's in our meeting that doesn't know how to read. And yet we still have, this, I guess, going back to the past. And I think, would they be happy with us that we're spending 15, 20, sometimes 30 minutes reading minutes word for word, when that was something that they did because of necessity, not because they, hey, we just want to read minutes. And so when I think about, that's just one small example that I give. And so why I'm so excited today is because I have Dr. Carl Mack on. And Dr. Carl Mack is a historian. He understands the past in ways, and has studied things that have happened that can really help us move towards our freedom now. Because if we look at where we're at now and where we want to be, we're not where we want to be yet. But there's ways to get there by knowing and going through what we've learned in our past. And so I don't want to spend a whole lot of time, because I want to take our time talking to each other and really getting into a conversation that hopefully can make a difference in your life. So, make sure that you're subscribing, make sure that you're ringing the bell, make sure that you're showing and sharing this with other folks that could benefit from the things that we talk about. So, Doctor, thank you for being on this podcast with me today. Thank you for availing yourself and the things that you do. I know I want to talk about this incredible calendar that you put together with some really cool folks. But before we do that, maybe you can just kind of share your story. Talk about how you got to where you're at now, and then maybe where you came from. What would be awesome. And then we can go from there. And so, again, thank you for being on. I can't wait to have this hour with you. So,
yeah, it's a pleasure, Dr. B. Well, I can tell you right now that I'm in front of you because of a sister named Sister Cynthia Francis.
Yes.
So that's how I got here to
I love it.
Get with you. And I just find her to be an absolutely amazing, beautiful Black woman.
Yes, she is.
That I had the pleasure of meeting, and was just inspired by who she is and how she carries herself. So, Sister Francis, thank you so much for the introduction. Just an overarching view of me. I'm from the SIP. I'm from Mississippi. Came from the mud, right? When I say from the mud, I'm talking about my folks. I was just from the hood. Everybody had nicknames. My
Mhm.
youngest brother was Goldfish. My oldest brother is Bug. And unfortunately, those brothers are no longer with us. Um, my daddy is no longer with us. He and my mama divorced. My daddy was a functioning alcoholic. My mother was the pillar of strength that what I find most black women to be. So she alone has helped me to realize that when they talk about the absolute necessity of a black man to raise a black boy, my mother flies in the face of that. So I'm a self-proclaimed mama's boy, and I don't know how y'all define mama's boy, but I'll put it this way: I ain't never got in no fight with nobody because they said your daddy, right? You
I love
understand?
that. Yes.
Yeah. And my mama
Yes.
loved me from sun up. She loved her boys from sun up to sundown. Taught us how to be real men. So shout out to all the sisters out there that's carrying that load and doing the work that you have done to make us who we are. So I graduated from Lanier High School. Didn't know anything about engineering. So when you introduced me, you introduced me as a historian, but by degree, I'm a mechanical engineer. And I
Okay.
remember
I didn't know
going
that.
to Lanier High School, all black high school in Jackson. They realized I was good in math and science, and so they said, "Well, you need to go to you should be an engineer." Well, again, being from the hood, I knew there were train tracks. There was a train yard right down the street from my house, right?
Mhm.
So when I thought about engineer, I'm just thinking about somebody who drives a train. That's all I knew about engineering. So I ended up going to Mississippi State to study mechanical engineering. Man, I could tell you, man, I'm sitting in thermodynamics. I can't even spell thermodynamics. And I got my white counterparts asking questions about the first and second law of enthalpy. I'm like, man, where they do that at, right? But a brother had determination to get in, and just fight it out. I remember I wanted to drop out, and I just happened to call home one day, and my mama answered the phone. She had no business being at home. She was supposed to be at work. And I just said, Mama, I just can't. My freshman year, I said, Mama, I need to come home. I can't do this. And she said, Baby, it's okay if you want to come home, but just understand this. We done paid for this semester, so why don't you just stick it out? And then if you decide you don't want to go back, you don't have to go back. Finished up that semester, man, and my grades was solid. And of course, I stayed, and there you have it. But I remember having a feeling of inferiority when I was at Mississippi State. These white kids, the things that they could do and understood at that age that I had no concept of. And I just had that grit in me, that grit that came from my mama, right? So afterwards, I remember meeting this young lady, and I moved up to Seattle, and I worked as an engineer for 18 years, designing wastewater treatment facilities. I was a startup engineer. And I remember how important when I was going through college, my co-op experience was. Um, and I co-opted at John Deere. And it was the first time in my life that I got to see that education pays. So I had just finished my freshman year at Mississippi State, right? And I'm making as much money as my mama, and I'm a co-op student. I was like, shit, man, it's dumb to be dumb. It's cool to be smart. So the idea of not making it, and the hardest thing I was doing at work was picking up a cup of coffee using my brain.
Mhm.
Shit, man, that was, cats can tell me whatever they want to, man, but I saw it. And my life has changed ever since. I ended up going to Seattle. I worked as an engineer for 18 years. And my life changed on August 16th, 1990. And that's when God placed inside of me this idea to do this Black History calendar. But it started before that. There was this white brother I worked with, white dude named Henry Cody. And Cody's a beautiful brother, man. Just a brother from another mother, that's all. But I remember one day Henry came and he was talking to me about this article he read in the New York Times about Henry O. Flipper. And Henry O. Flipper was the first Black to graduate from the West Point Military Academy. And the story was absolutely beautiful. And Henry's sharing his story with me. And he's looking at me like, absolutely, you know about this. And I'm looking at him like, yeah, yeah, all the time. I don't know a damn thing about Henry Flipper. But what was dawning to me at the time was how beautiful the story was about O. Flipper being the first Black to graduate from West Point Military Academy. Nobody spoke to him, and yet he still graduated. And keep in mind, West Point is the first engineering school in America. So here, this white guy telling me something about my culture I have no idea about. And at the same time that I'm overjoyed, I'm also embarrassed that this white man knows more about me, my culture, than I do. Because I could tell you, family, when I graduated from Mississippi State, I couldn't give you 100 words about the Black experience. That includes Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and I'm still short. I just didn't know.
Mhm.
So I felt embarrassed about it. So I'm riding to work one day, and God gives me the concept, gives me the idea to make this Black History calendar. And so this is it. And this is an example of it, right? And just
Mhm.
every day there'll be somebody out of Black history, right? For 366 days of the year. And it was like, Carl, there's probably a lot of folks like you. So what if you could just break this thing down and make a Black History calendar, and every day you could just get a little bit of your knowledge. Just start your day with a couple of minutes out of your day. And so I started it. And when I started researching, my whole world turned around. I mean, my whole world turned around. And what I mean by that is this, fam. When I was here in America, there is no doubt, man, I acted like a visitor when I looked deeply at it. Whatever white folks, it was just something about white folks. If they said something, you just knew the shit to be true.
Mhm.
So I just acted like a visitor. Didn't care about much, this is America, it's like it's their country. Man, when I got inside of history and understood that given how this nation was born out of war, and there hadn't been a war or a skirmish that she's been in that we've never been a part of. And then I juxtaposed that back to when I was in high school, all through my education, all the way through college. I don't care what history I ever studied. I never saw the beauty of me. Then I came to understand why Dr. Carter G. Woodson chose February as Black History Month in honor of Abraham Lincoln and Frederick Douglass. Lincoln born on the 12th, Frederick Douglass born on the 14th. But keep in mind, Frederick didn't know the exact date of his birthday, so his mother called him My Little Valentine. So he chose that as his birthday. But nonetheless, out of respect for those two men, Dr. Woodson chose the month of February for us to study Black history. But once I got inside the history, I began to understand, and my whole world was changing rapidly. All of a sudden, I began to take ownership. So I want more Black kids to get involved in engineering. So when I went up to the organization I work with, it was like, look, how come we can't have Black interns? And they was like, well, we can't find them. The old Carl would have been like, well, but have you tried to look here? Mm-mm. The new improved Carl was like, man, what the hell y'all looking at? When you
Mhm.
get off, you can't find us. I tell you what, sit your ass down and let me look. And I'm saying, I'm talking to upper management. And I went, to some degrees, if they forced me, I would go to that level, right? Like, sit
Mhm.
your ass down and let me look for my people. And the interesting thing, they allowed me to look.
Oh, that's great.
And by the time it was done,
Mhm.
that co-op program was known as unofficially the Black co-op program, because that's all I did was brought Black children in. You know, I was the judge and jury on them, so when it came down, because I don't care how you cut it, hiring is always subjective. And
Oh.
I remember when I was sitting in front of the executive director of the organization, I'll never forget this. He asked me, he said, Carl, if a Black candidate and a white candidate was sitting in front of you, who would you choose? I said, let's assume that the white candidate just had a little bit extra over the Black man. I said, I'll choose the Black man every time. This white man looked at me and said, why would you do that? I say, because if all he got is a little bit extra, given everything that he's got, my man's good. So, like when you talked about Dr. B, you talked about freedom. The other thing that's freedom is our ability to exist in America without the artificial barriers that white America has put up in front of us from the day that they stole us and brought us here. And we've been fighting to get them barriers out of the way. So, freedom, my ability to live free of that nonsense.
Hmm.
So, I just stopped acting like a visitor and I took. And then I got involved with the NAACP in Seattle and ultimately became the president of the NAACP. And our branch was the winner of the 2003, maybe 2002, 2003 Class 1A Thalheim Award as the best branch in the country. I
Hmm.
would tell you that I was an engineer for 18 years. I went on to become executive director for the National Society of Black Engineers, which is the largest repository of Black engineers in the world. When I got there, they had around 12,000 plus members. And in 4 years, I grew it to 36,000. I had some of the large, I had not some, I had the largest engineering camps in America for Black children. And because you're in Denver, one of my Seek camps was in Denver. And Seek is an acronym that
Hmm.
stands for Summer Engineering Experience for Kids. I had over 300 kids in that camp. The camp cost the community nothing. The only price to admission to come to that camp was that you had to come to the parent orientation. And that camp was being held for 3 weeks, and it was being taught by young Black engineering students from all over the country. We had that camp right there in Denver. So I was in Oakland, San Diego, Denver, um, Detroit, Philadelphia, Brooklyn, DC, New Orleans, Houston, and Jackson, Mississippi. I was in 10 different cities across the United States. And the camp that I had in my hometown of Jackson, Mississippi was the largest engineering camp in the history of this country for Black children, for Black girls. I had over 350 Black girls in my engineering camp for 3 weeks being taught by sisters. This type, and it's not that I'm brilliant, Dr. B.
No, no, not at
Let's
all.
get that
Yeah.
clear. The reason I'm able to think in that level is because history was giving me these answers. And Malcolm told us that. Malcolm said, of all of our studies, history is best qualified to reward our research. When you find that you have a problem, all you have to do is study the historical methods of people with problems like yours. When you find out how they solve theirs, you'll know how you solve yours. So my life turned around because of history. That's where everything changed for me.
Mhm.
Now, the greatest job I ever had was the one in which I worked for free, and that was the NAACP. I got to understand the power of those 5 letters. Seattle got to understand the power of those 5 letters. Our community got to understand the power of those 5 letters. So, for anybody who wanted to know how our branch functioned and why we were the Class 1A Thalheimer Award winners, I would invite you to just Google Carl Mack NAACP. You'll see how we roll. We were unapologetic. People said to me, well, Brother Mack, you seem so angry. You seem so this, and I never allowed people to define me, but I always told white folks, I always told white America, and sometimes I had to tell Black America because sometimes they wanted me to tone it down, but I had to make sure people understood this.
Yeah.
Having studied our history, let me be absolutely clear. I will never be diplomatic with racism and discrimination. It does not deserve diplomacy. So if you want to sit at the table of brotherhood and reason can talk, we can do this, man. But if reason is sitting across the table from stupid, man, we ain't having no conversation like that. That's done. We done with that. So anyway, I was executive director up until 2013.
Okay.
Age of 51, I retired. I've been retired ever since. Went through my second divorce, and my wife, Jamie O, and I want to tell you, I want to say this about that woman. My wife, Jamie O, is not the smartest woman I ever met, bro. That sister's like the smartest person I ever met. She's a great mother. She's a great wife. Sometimes shit happens, right?
Mhm.
And so what I came to understand, and she's good, I'm good. Unfortunately, we not good, but that's still good. Our legacy is that we have two beautiful children together. I think she is a brilliant woman. She's a good sister, and there's no need that life has to be zero sum. Nah,
Yeah.
we're not married, but I
Mhm.
treasure who she is, and
Yeah.
my greatest legacy in this world is going to
Yeah.
be that my boys have understood what I have instilled in them.
Yeah. Yeah.
That under no circumstances, come anything in front of you, you protect and you take care of your mama. So anyway, man, that's the overarching view of who a brother is.
Oh my gosh. What incredible history. And just as I want to jump in because there's just so much to unpack there. I mean, there's, the kid that's from Mississippi, you know, from the spot in Mississippi, the hood that you came from, that you
Excellent.
described. Um, engineer was born. A person with an incredible amount of ability and knowledge is there waiting for somebody to be able to figure out how to get you into where you can experience the best. And then for somebody to say, where are they at? To know that how many communities that are in our United States that are just like that one that you grew up with there are some very bright, what do you think attributed for you to be able to, I mean, it sounds like you had an amazing mom and you had, the ability for somebody to bring you forward. But was some of the other factors other than, I guess you got into school. So was that her that said you got to go to school in the first place, or what spread you apart from the other folks that remained probably to this day?
Man, I'm not even gonna deal with the other folks, man. I'm gonna just deal with
Okay.
and there was another brother who he and I were like best friends. Name is
Hmm.
Mighty, and like the fifth, Mighty came from a family of all sisters, right?
Hmm.
So I don't know how it happened, man. But next thing I know, Mighty is staying with us. Like, mom,
Okay.
can he stay the weekend? Next thing you know, he don't go home. Um, and so my mother raised four boys. Now, unfortunately, and so when you're talking about the difference, I'm gonna
Hmm.
just talk about the four
Yeah.
of us.
Yeah.
I'm the only one of the four to go to college.
Okay.
Um, we all had access to the same thing from my mama. My mama didn't treat none of us any differently. All of us had the same access. I think I was just that cat who just, I looked at my mother. I just took time to just observe, and I watched my mother go to work every day and struggle. And then I'm trying to look inside the future and say, okay, Carl, when you graduate from Lanier High School, what are you going to do? Man, that manual labor shit, man, it just wasn't cut for me. I just wasn't for that.
Hmm.
And my mother always talked to me about the importance of education. Now, when my mother and father divorced, there was another man who stepped in my life who was not my biological daddy, but believe me, that man was every much my daddy.
Okay.
And he just taught me a lot of things. One of them is to work before play, to be able to handle your responsibilities. Don't want to hear no excuses. Just get that shit done. And,
Hmm.
and he was that guy for me. I love both of that. Do I love my biological daddy? Absolutely. I am John Mack's blood.
Hmm.
Alcoholic, call him whatever you want to, but he is my daddy. Love him. But this other brother who stepped in my life, and I'm not of his loins, and I got mad love for him. I'll die for him. He is that dude, right? Um, so those things, those people were in play. The other person, there was a guy that went to my high school. He was 7 years my senior, named Daryl Jones, and Daryl went to the Air Force Academy, and ultimately he was nominated later in life under the Clinton administration to be Secretary of the Air Force. Right? Daryl was the first beautiful black man I ever laid eyes on. And I remember when he graduated from our all black high school too. And like I said, went to the Air Force Academy. I remember when he walked in the room, man, it was just the charisma of that brother was amazing. So Daryl had a very profound impact on my life. His daddy was my tennis coach, so I stayed in touch with him, and anything that he said, man, just made me feel like I was capable of doing anything. And then watching his success, I think is part of why I was able to get through Mississippi State. But him, my mama, my the man I call my daddy, Bo, all of them was a part of that. Being able to look back and see if I don't make it out of Mississippi State, this is what you got to go back to. The opportunity I had at John Deere. My counselors in high school, when I was thinking, why am I taking pre-calculus? I don't need pre-calculus, geometry, and trigonometry to go to the store. I give the person a $5 bill, they give me change. I need basic math to know how much change they're gonna give me back. My math teacher, listening to me, goes down to the counselor and says, if we don't show Carl why he needs this upper level math and science, we could lose him. So my counselor now reaches out to Mississippi State, and this white guy named Mike Matthews drives from Starkville down to Jackson to tell me about this co-op program. So there were a lot of people, a lot of factors that came into my life that led to my success. I'm naming some of those people. When I was in the NAACP, the late Judge Johnson.
Hmm.
Judge Johnson spent more years in the NAACP than I was alive. And I was so blessed and honored to be able to sit at his feet and just gain his wisdom. Now, I was certainly that wild, unbroken black thoroughbred. Judge, Judge could walk up to me with no bridle, no saddle. I'm gonna bend down, let him mount me, and he could ride me. Judge could control me. There was a lot of cats who were older. Man, don't come to me with that. I smelt weakness from them. I felt weakness from them. I didn't feel their authenticity. Judge had a way of handling me. He respected my fire, and I absolutely respected his wisdom. But if I had to choose that guy in Seattle who really helped me, it was Dr. Jones. So Dr. Jones saw my first Black History project, and every day I would just go and sit at his feet, and this man would just teach me. Just and the one thing that he taught me, the importance that he taught me about Black history, um, um, Doc taught me that the most important lesson that Black history teaches us is to be patient with our people because of
Mhm.
the shit we've gone through in this country.
Mhm.
And he instilled that in me. So I had no choice but to serve
Mhm.
because I understood that I wasn't the product of just my greatness. I was the product of people known and unknown who paved the way for us, right?
Yeah.
And so Doc just helped mold my armor, where I was unapologetic for fighting for our community. And there were people throughout our history that really helped. You know, Charles Hamilton Houston, when Charles said, I would rather die on my feet than live on my knees. You
Mm.
know, when America fucked with us like that, they had that part of me.
Yeah.
You know, don't think I'm gonna come and beg you and hope you like me so you could do the right thing for me and my people. No, we ain't doing that, fam. I'm an owner here. I'm not gonna beg you to give me what's mine. I'm not even gonna ask you for what's mine. You're gonna get right with me, or
Mhm.
we
Yeah.
just gonna
Yeah.
deal
Yeah.
with it.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying to you, this is what history unleashed in me. This is what these people, Dr. Jones, Judge Johnson, and Judge was a far different man than me. Judge could sit there and rationalize and be diplomatic, and he knew I was I was the opposite. But the only thing Judge ever said to me was, Carl, just be right. Don't go out there acting no fool. Just be right, son. So, I had a lot of people that poured a lot into me. And I just want to believe that I had the sense enough to listen and not be so damn arrogant. You better have a level of humility, where you don't just walk around thinking your shit don't stink.
Yeah.
So I was just, I stayed humble and, and just remembered, I just felt like I've always understood my purpose. Um,
Yeah.
and history clearly helped me with that. So
Oh man, I love it. One of the the things that I'm trying to develop with the Journey to Freedom program is to take some black a group of black men, and I'm going to take 14 in January down to Birmingham, and we're going to do some civil rights. We're going to go through a tour. We're going to talk about story. I'm going to cat here named Jeff Campbell does an Underground Railroad story thing that we're going to go through a process there. Then we'll go to Selma, and then we'll end up at the Equal Justice Museum in Montgomery. And one of the things when last year when I went there, there's a room, and I don't know if you've been there yet, but there's a room where they have the pictures of pretty much everybody that maybe not as extensive as yours, but almost that many. I mean, the room goes all the way up to the ceiling, 40 feet high, of people, and then there's a story about each person that's there. When you started that calendar in 1990, did you believe that what would come from that, them speaking to you the way that they did throughout the process of making that would happen? And what was your, like, I guess the favorite part about doing the research and putting together this amazing calendar that you put together?
no, I mean, when you ask me if I knew, I ain't know nothing. I ain't know
Gotcha.
nothing about nothing like that, right? And so as I'm reading about our ancestors and our experience, the world was just opening up to me in a way that it's just amazing, man. Everything was amazing. And I just used to sit quiet and try to understand what they were going through. And so Dr. Jones helped
Mhm.
me to just see the whole picture of it. So it was just absolutely amazing. And I just drew so much strength from them. Um, and so let me just, and so here is Black Heritage Day 4. So every day I just got to wake up with my culture, right?
Mhm.
And so the beautiful thing about this is, it comes with the table of contents, right? So it's like 4 pages of table of contents. So, you know, you can find anybody you want that's in the calendar, right? And the most perfect calendar is an equal representation of men and women, 366 days. Everybody in the calendar is on a day significant in their life. So I don't just put you on any day. You were born on that day, you died on that day, you integrated University of Georgia on that day. You did something significant on that day. That day has to be important in your life. That's what made it real challenging,
Ooh, yeah.
right? And so when I finished this calendar, Black Heritage Day 4, one of my students worked at the Google Foundation. And this was on the heels of George Floyd being murdered in Minneapolis.
Mhm.
And white America had all this guilt. They want to do something, right? And so Google was looking for some product that can add something significant on Black history for every day of the year. Now, if Google can't find it, I mean, Google's one of the largest search engine in the world, but they couldn't find that. And I just happened to have sent my former student a copy of Black Heritage Day 4. He shared it with Google, and so Google came to me and licensed my research. So they took my calendar and they put it on their device. So you could say, you know, what happened on this day in Black history, and it would read from my calendar. But they only left that up there for a year. They didn't tell anybody about it. It was one of those things. And I think a lot of us who are been a part of the culture, trying to advance the culture, if you're in corporate America, there's a lot of times when white corporate America would do something simply to check the box and say,
Mhm.
well, we tried that. That's all Google did. They and what was disappointing was the fact that we had an opportunity to use technology in a way that every day, I got to tell you, Doc, it was amazing to walk downstairs every day and say, what happened on this day in Black history? It just starts. It was just beautiful. Now, I got the Google Home device, and hopefully you can hear that.
You got on mute. Dr. Mack, you somehow you muted your mic.
Am I back?
There you go. You're back. You're back. Okay.
So every day I can ask this. I'm gonna try this.
Try it again, yeah, because we didn't hear it.
Oh, watch this. Hey Google, what happened on this day in Black history? I don't understand. So she says she don't understand. Now, there was a time when she would answer that question, but they had to take my research off, right? Because they weren't sincere about it. But
Mhm.
anyway, nonetheless, after I finished Black Heritage Day 4, I was very proud of it until I sat down and did an analysis. Because the other thing, remember, I told you that in a perfect world, the other thing would be that there was an equal representation of Black
Mhm.
women. So when I looked at Black Heritage Day 4, I did not have an equal representation of Black women. And again, Malcolm spoke to me because there's a quote by Malcolm, and Malcolm says this: the most disrespected person in America is the Black woman.
Mhm.
The most neglected person in America is the Black woman. The most unprotected person in America is the Black woman. And so I said, but Malcolm, and Malcolm was like, Carl, are you trying to tell me that you couldn't find an equal number of accomplished Black women to include in your historical research? Is that what you're telling me? My bad, fam.
Yeah.
And so now I decided to do, and I asked Brother Malcolm, what if I do a Black History calendar that's 366 days of nothing but Black women every day of the year? So that's what I did. And she is my greatest piece of work. And I will tell you that You know, it's one thing to talk about the greatness of Black women. It's another thing to sit down and understand. You know, we as Black men, we always want to talk about the shit we've gone through. You want to talk about been through something?
Ooh.
Sisters, let me just give you a quick example of what I'm talking about, and to prove to you what Brother Malcolm said. In 2008, a man from the Democratic Party ran for president, Barack Obama. He got 93% of the Black vote. In 2016, a white woman from the Democratic Party ran for president. Her name is Hillary Clinton. She got 88% of the Black vote. In 2020, a white man from the Democratic Party named Joe Biden ran for president of the United States and got somewhere around 92, 93% of the Black vote. This year, a Black woman is running for president of the United States. She's currently at 77% of the Black vote. Where they do that at? Where they do that at? See, that's what Malcolm was talking about.
Mhm.
We don't give our sisters the respect. America hadn't given her respect, and then we ain't got the wherewithal to protect her. Instead, we neglect her. That's what history done. And I'm gonna try to stay calm, B, because I'm really getting in my feelings right now.
That's
And
all right.
this is what history has done. You know, it has unlocked these things to me, where we see. I mean, think about this. Think about this. When you just look at what Trump has done to the culture, I don't want to hear shit about his policy on immigration and the economy, and because I got a whole different viewpoint on that. But let's just look at him with the culture.
Mhm.
The dude has discriminated against Black folks in housing. Took out a full-page ad calling for the execution of 5 young brothers and Latino and Black brothers.
Part
Right?
five.
Okay. Charlottesville, Virginia, white nationalists, KKK neo-Nazis marching, chanting blood and soil, Jews will never replace us, and all kind of racist, anti-Semitic nonsense. And what does Trump say? They're fine people on both sides. Has he apologized for the Central Park 5, exonerated 5, even though all the evidence, DNA, everything has said that these young boys didn't do it? You got a person who confessed to it. Has he apologized? No. Now he comes down. We're dealing, and us as Black folks, we have been dealing with police brutality since the advent of law enforcement in this country. Now you got NFL players. You got 3 sisters that got together and coined a phrase that took over the world that meant something: Black Lives Matter. Now you got NFL players taking a knee to bring attention to police brutality. And what does Trump say to the culture? Fire them sons of bitches. Fire them all. Get them out of here. Right? Now he comes down. He has dinner with a known white nationalist, Nick Fuentes, who's a known white nationalist. Right? Now he supports this guy. He calls African nations. Oh, and we thinking Trump ain't for immigrations. No, Trump is for immigrations. He's just from immigrations from Norway and Sweden. But the African nations he calls shithole countries. I'm just talking about the culture now. Talking about this is the same man who endorsed Mark the Black Nazi Robinson, who is the current sitting lieutenant governor of North Carolina, a guy who self-proclaims himself as a Black Nazi, who Trump called Martin Luther King Jr. on steroids. It's twice as good as Martin Luther King. This Black guy who said that he wouldn't mind if slavery came back, and he himself would be an enslaver of us. This is, and did Trump pour his endorsement? No. So I'm just talking about the guy from the cultural standpoint. This is the same guy who said to law enforcement, I'm going to work to give you as much immunity as I can give you. And don't worry about no lawsuits. We're going to raise money to take care of you. Now that's a green light for them to stop every one of us and beat our ass until they don't want to beat no more. And Trump saying, it's okay. It's okay. This is the guy. I'm just looking at this guy from the cultural standpoint.
Yeah, no, I'm hearing you.
And from this standpoint, you got Black folk talking about This is our God. This is my white savior. Man, go on with that. Where they do that at? See, that's the beautiful thing about history. B is it helps you to think critically.
Mhm.
There's a truism of history that people react on what they think has happened rather than what actually happened. I don't give a damn what you think. Let's look at what actually happened. And I'm talking facts about what this guy does. And this is the guy that you want to give your support to over the culture, over a sister. He is poisoning you to question her ethnicity, that now you think you want to question her ethnicity. Is she black? The sister got an Indian mama and a black daddy, right? Look at me. You don't think somebody white was tipping in my family? And if you want to throw her away, then be prepared to throw Malcolm away, because Malcolm mama is from Grenada. Be willing to throw Harry Belafonte away. Look at the where his parents are from. Throw Colin Powell away. Throw Cicely Tyson away. Just get rid of them. You know, come on, man. Where they do that shit at? Only reason you're thinking like that is because that white man done put that shit in us, right? So I'm history just, I deal with things differently, B. History makes it clear. So anyway, my pride and joy is the 366 day Black History calendar on Black women. So
Is that one where you had to do the same thing where there's a day that they're because
every
that's
day,
going to be the hardest part is to make sure that because there's a whole lot of days that are duplicated, I'm sure.
there you go. So I'll give you this. So on this particular day, there's a sister named Betty Reen Sokin, and she is the America's oldest living national park ranger. And it was on this day in 2016 that she received a congressional award from Representative Mark DeSaulnier of Richmond, California. In 2018, she was among Glamour Magazine's Women of the Year. So, here's the write-up on her.
Mhm. Yeah.
And again, you're right. That becomes the challenge is, can you find, because she was born on September 22nd. She obviously isn't dead. So you just keep going through this thing, going deeper in their life, trying to find these days. And you got to hope that that day is open, right? Um, it was a lot of fun to go through and work it and do it. But it was an amazing project. And it just gave me amazing insight to the power and the contribution of Black women. And as much as I appreciate Black women wanting to purchase the calendar and get inside of it every day, I think we as Black men need to take a step back, and I'll give you this as a story on here. We all remember the historic March on Washington,
Mhm.
August of 1963. So there was only one Black woman that worked on the committee. Her name was Arnold Hedgeman. And I'm just going to take a shot and see if she's on August 23rd, because that was the day that was the March on Washington. No, I remember the day that. But anyway, so she was the only Black woman to work on the planning committee for the historic March on Washington. And at the time, remember, the March on Washington was the largest protest in the history of this country. And she was dealing with what America was calling the Civil Rights Six. And these were six Black men: Martin Luther King, Whitney Young, A. Philip Randolph, Roy Wilkins, James Farmer, and John Lewis. These are who they call the Civil Rights Six. Nobody talked about the contributions of Dorothy Height. Nobody talked about Ella Jo Baker. Ella Jo Baker helped groom these cats.
Mhm.
John Lewis she was the mentor to John Lewis, but yet John Lewis and the Civil Rights Six, no mention of Ella Baker, no mention of Dorothy Height. There was a ton of Black women who should have been sitting at that table.
Oh, absolutely.
And so Anna Arnold Hedgeman said that to these brothers. They paid it no attention. Then she said to them, Black women should be a part of the program to speak at the March on Washington. So when the agenda came out, when the program came out, there was not one Black woman on that. And I'm gonna take the opportunity to find, but there was not one Black woman that was on the program. And Anna Arnold Hedgeman got in her feelings about it. Let me see, Hedgeman, July 5th. Okay. So she got in her feelings about it. And this is the page on Anna Arnold Hedgeman.
Okay.
And I want to read to you what she wrote to these six Black men. Martin Luther King, Whitney Young, A. Philip Randolph, Roy Wilkins, James Farmer, and John Lewis. This is the letter she wrote to them. She said, in light of the role of the Negro women in the struggle for freedom, and especially in light of the extra burden they have carried because of the castration of the Negro man in this culture, it is incredible that no woman should appear as a speaker at the historic March on Washington at the Lincoln Memorial. So she wrote them a very scathing letter. And as a result, they added Myrlie Evers, who was the widow of Medgar Evers, who was killed in my hometown of Jackson, Mississippi. And unfortunately, because of the size of the event, Myrlie got caught up in traffic. And so instead, they chose Daisy Bates. And Daisy Bates, of course, was the sister that led the brave 9 little Black children that we know as the Little Rock Nine that integrated
Mhm.
high school. So the reason why these sisters roll off my tongue so easily is because I hold them in such high regard, and they should be.
Absolutely.
It's just like Anna Arnold Hedgeman said, when this country was castrating Black men, it was Black women that kept us, strengthened us, molded us, held us, was right there with us.
Mhm.
You look at the sisters. I'm gonna tell you something, bro. And this story is real personal to me. Diane Nash, right? When you think about John Lewis, the first thing that comes to mind is Snick. Well, let me tell you about Diane Nash. Diane Nash was one of the founding members of Snick, right? And that sister was unbelievable. When you hear the term ride or die, that's what Diane Nash said. So when them Freedom Ride buses was getting bombed and burned, and everybody was getting their commitment was getting shaken, Diane Nash was like, "No, fam, we're gonna double down on this." Of course, they coming at us because they know the progress we're making. So she was that fire and brimstone that just kept us going. And if you looked at Diane Nash, man, you would have thought you was looking at a Hollywood starlet. Beautiful sister, right? But then every one of our sisters is beautiful, really, if you ask me. But anyway, the reason Diane Nash sits so personal to me is because Diane Nash came down to Jackson and opened up a SNCC office. And as a result, they arrested her. And they sentenced her to do time, sentenced her to Parchment. Parchment's the state penitentiary in Mississippi. It was April of 1962, and Diane Nash was pregnant. And so they asked her, Sister Nash, are you going to appeal this ruling? She said, no, I'm not going to appeal it. They said, why? She said, because if my baby has to be born in prison, in jail, so that one day our children will be born free, it'll be worth it. This is April of 1962.
Mhm.
I was born in Jackson, Mississippi in April of 1962 because of sisters like Diane Nash. That's what
Man, wow.
that's what I'm just telling you about history, man. It just unlocks things for you.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I have I go down to, I go down to the thing that we're going to do in Alabama, and we're walking on the Bettis Bridge. We're talking about bloody Sunday, and then we're talking about when they actually marched to Montgomery, and realized that I was born on the day they started marching. They're like, oh my gosh. I was born here in Denver, but oh my Lord, when you start thinking, the question I have for you now is, you got over 800 of these days and these people that you've now put into this calendar. There had to be a process that goes as part of this, that when I think of mental health and I think of health of you and how you get through that, how do you process what happened to 800 people throughout their lives and not come out a person who just is so angry, so mad, can't talk to nobody, just want to fight everybody up?
I so respect the question, fam. I so respect the question. Because I promise you, man,
Woo!
that took a lot.
I can't do 2 or 3.
And I tell you, one of the things that God blessed me with, to try and compartmentalize. But I'm gonna tell you something, man. I also had to, and what you need to know is, so this is my fifth calendar. So
Okay.
we talking, I've done 5 of these, right?
Okay.
I actually done 7 because I did 2 more that I haven't published yet. But anyway, to your question at hand, it's a very it's a very insightful question. It's a very good question because there were many times that I read, um, and I was furious,
Mm, yeah.
right? And I didn't want to diminish that fury. I wanted it to always stay with me because, see, you're a part of the NAACP, Doc. I don't know if you've been in them streets like we were in them streets. Okay, I promise you, you go back and look at the shit we was did. We was in them streets. And so the thing about being with the NAACP or fighting for the community, it's somewhere you have to judge. You have to come to a balance of how far can I go?
Mm,
How safe should I stay? That fire of everything that ever happened to us as a people. Always, when I'm sitting at the poker table, all my chips are in every time. On every flip of the card, all my chips are on the table. That's what history gave me. I ain't playing shit safe. And if I don't care, in every case, everybody who ever came to me, I don't care how small the case is, I don't care how big the case was. It was as though you were from my own loins. If you was an old woman, you were either my mama or my grandmama. If you was a young woman, my age, you were my sister. If you were even younger, you were my daughter. If you was the same with males, my granddaddy, my daddy, or my brother or my child, that's the way, that's the kind of attachment I had with you. I made myself believe it. And then that fire of history would not allow me to back down from nobody about nothing. I'm not asking you to do right by my sister. I'm telling you, you gonna do right by my sister, or you are going to get the full forces of them 5 letters, NAACP. And I'm more than happy to drive them right up your ass if you don't get right with us.
love
Believe
it.
all that.
Hmm.
And I'm gonna tell you something. I can sit down and I can have a diplomatic conversation, or we can take it in the mud. And when I went in the mud, I was on my way to an all-white party. So I had an all-white suit on. Love putting it in the mud. That's what history does. So that fire that I kept it right there. It was good.
Woo. Yes. Yes.
I'm just telling you how I work, you know.
I love it. I love it.
And again, I've had, and look, I don't want nobody. I mean, you could think whatever you want to. He who defines rules, none of you will ever define me. I want you to understand something. Don't get it twisted about my ability to be diplomatic. I'll say it to you again. Racism doesn't deserve diplomacy.
No. No.
It doesn't. And I done sat across the table from people who have done wrong by our community. We sit down and talk about it. They get right. We get right.
There we
Ain't no
go.
problem. I ain't got to go to war all the time. I'm just not
No.
afraid to.
I love it. What's next? It seems like you're just getting going. I mean, you've done
No,
several calendars, you've done all this stuff, but you just getting going.
I'm old. Man. I'm 62 now, man.
Okay.
Let me be clear about what I've always known. That civil rights game is a young man, young woman's game, right? And so when I was in it, I remember this brother from the Urban League, James Kelly, he said to me, it's like, Brother Mack, man, you got to slow down. This is a marathon. I looked
Mm,
at him, I said, Brother Kelly, I absolutely know it's a marathon, but I'm going to run it like it's a 40-yard dash. So that when I'm done, I'm lathered up. I ain't got nothing else to give. I got no regrets about nothing. And what I'm going to tell you is this, Dr. B, everything that I've ever done in my life, I spent everything. I left it all there.
mm,
It's just not many regrets. I look back and wish I regret that I didn't, you know, I think the saying goes, when I could have, I didn't. Now that I want to, I can't.
Ah,
I don't
I like
have that, man.
I like that.
When I could have, I didn't. Now that I want to, I can't. That shit don't exist in my life.
That's
I
so
gave everything because I knew that there was going to come a day when I just wouldn't be able to do it, wouldn't want to do it.
mhm.
And I've always known that I was going to retire. I wanted to retire early. So, I invested in the stock market, Facebook. I had a young sister who worked for me. She was like a daughter to me. Um, Talked to me about Facebook at the time that Facebook went public. I put a few coins in there, and I've been retired ever since, right? So again, I retired at 51. So I wake up naturally. I had a chance to be in my boy's life in those very formidable years.
Yeah, yeah.
Just I live quiet. You know, I like quiet. I don't want to do shit else, man. I just don't. I mean, history.
Mhm.
I love writing history. People ask me, and I didn't want to speak no more. I'm talking to you because Sister Francis said,
Yeah,
he's a good brother, right?
yeah.
And when I talk to you, I think you're a good brother. But I never care for the limelight, if you will. I
Mhm.
don't care for clicks and clout. Just if nobody messes with me, I ain't messing with nobody. I'm quiet. So
I love it. I love it. What would you say? You know, as I have young men, in their late 20s to 50 that are watching this, that are feeling like they're not enough. They're feeling insecure.
feeling like you're what now?
They're feeling like they're not enough. Like
I got
they can't move forward. Like they're insuperior to the folks that uh, because they a lot of it because they don't understand history or they haven't, just like for you it just wasn't there. It wasn't something that was ever talked about, or they're whatever the reasons are that they wake up every day trying to figure out what their purpose is and how they move along. How would you help them to find a pathway that can move them forward into a life like the one that you've had, or the life that like the one I'm experiencing, that it's full and I can't wait to get up every day to do stuff and to make a difference?
Truth be told, I didn't wake up every day. I wasn't
Okay.
happy about waking up every day. There's a many days I want to just stay my ass in bed and sleep.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you.
No, but let me say this. Be quiet, man.
Okay.
We always want to. I remember even when I was in college, man. I can count the number of parties I went to in college. I can count the number of times in my life that I've ever gone to a nightclub.
Yeah.
I don't think it's over 10 times in my life. I'm 62 years old. Just ain't what I wanted to do, right? Um, but I'm not knocking folks who go to clubs who get their party. I'm not knocking that. I'm just saying to you that what helped me was just being quiet, trying to figure out, Carl, why do you think how you think? Why do you say what you say? You don't have to curse, so why do you curse? Because damn it, I like I just like cursing. I just do.
Mhm.
But Carl, why? It don't matter. I like it. Works for me. Can I choose a different word? Yeah, but this is what I like.
That's what I
So
like.
I
Yeah.
became unapologetic for how I am. But now, am I trying to screw over somebody? No, you can't make no excuse for that. And in the end, what history says to me, and this is the way that I envision life as it takes place at this very moment. Even now, I don't want to go and do nothing, but I'm on my way to Seattle on October 20th to do a Black History lecture. It's one of the first times in my life that I've ever been asked to speak on Black history, and it wasn't in the month of February. And I'm
Mm.
doing this because God said to me, Carl, they are attacking your history. They're trying to ban Black history. I want you to go and speak. These people in Seattle, they bought a plane ticket. I know people in Seattle, so I got a room. They ain't got to buy a hotel room, and they ain't got to pay me no speaking fee. None of those things are necessary. I've never charged Black people to teach Black people about Black people. I think what I do, I just think it's kind of pimpish, if you ask me.
Mhm.
So I don't do it. So what I'm saying to you, I just needed to be quiet and come to understand why I do what I do, why I think the way I think, why I act the way I act. And the more I came to understand me, plus understanding history, I unlocked my capabilities, my possibilities to do things.
Mhm.
And I just never felt encumbered like that. But I didn't measure my success based on what car, what house, what kind of clothes. I didn't. Just like now, Doc, I'm gonna tell you this. I can't say to you that I was overly excited about sitting down talking to you right now.
Mhm.
But I'm gonna tell you this, man. You have been therapy for me today.
Okay.
Even now, when I, to think about Dr. Jones and these
Mhm.
emotions come up. You have been very therapeutic for me as a black man. And I want to say to you, I don't, it's the first time I ever laid eyes on you, but I'm gonna forever have an indelible memory of you because you've helped me today. And I just want to say to you, I love you for having this platform so that, we as brothers can, sometimes we can pull our cape off
Mhm.
and just be, just talk to one another,
Yeah.
you know. And I just want to thank you, man, for just being a beautiful soul that you are.
Oh, thank you. That's awesome.
No, man, that's, I like to believe in authenticity.
Mhm.
I call shit like I see it. You've been beautiful for me today. I don't know how you are with nobody else, but you've been beautiful.
Well, that's what. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well, that's
Yeah,
this is a work of like God told me this is what you're doing.
I
I
feel
said
you.
I don't want to work with just black men. God said no. This is where you need to be. And so I end up being the recipient of some amazing conversations, amazing things that are happening in life. And this isn't over because I want to figure out a way to create groups and transformational groups where we have this ability to talk to each other, where we have the ability to get rid of all the nonsense, the stuff, the peacocking or whatever you call it that we do at a barbershop or we do at places that we just talk about stuff that doesn't matter. How do we get into talking about how do we move forward? And so I thank you for today. I thank you for just sharing your heart, sharing who you are. I don't want this to be our last conversation, and I hope it's not.
Hey, man, I'm gonna, every time you call, your number goes to voicemail because I ain't put you in my contacts. So, but believe me, you're going in my contacts, and again, this is, as so to the young, to all of our brothers, just don't be afraid to be vulnerable.
Yeah,
And right now, clearly there's a level of vulnerability that I'm experiencing, but I will tell you that it is therapeutic for me, man. I could feel a weight being lifted off my shoulders because of this conversation we're having.
good.
To be able to go back and relive some of the things that you've done in life and why you've done them. And,
Yeah,
it's beautiful. And I thank you for that, bro.
yeah. Well, I know you're 62, but you ain't you ain't done. I'm 59, so I'm not going to catch you because that's impossible the way that time works. But it's there's so much more. There is so much more that you have to give to this world. And so, whether it's me who's helping as a catalyst for it, or it's just, it doesn't have to be massive. It doesn't have to be the type of thing you did in your past. But there's just too much knowledge and too much experience. I want to, if you're willing, I'd love to invite you down to when we go to Alabama and we talk about this stuff because as we process, you're an expert on processing, right? I'm putting 14 men in a room and we're going to talk about what happened in our history, and I don't know what's coming from that. And I don't know how I don't myself know how to process a lot of it because I went there and I spent 6 hours in that museum and still today I'm still living from just looking at the wall of people. So it's the last this year. It's the last week in January, um, our last weekend in January, doing that Thursday, Friday, and ends up coming back on out of Montgomery on the 3rd of February. And for those of you who are watching, if you want to be a part of it, this first trip, but we're going to do it often because there's something about getting away, something about being still, being quiet. Man, yeah.
A couple of things is,
Yeah. Mm.
again, and being quiet.
Hmm.
When you go down there, and I spoke in Birmingham a couple of times this year. Spoke in Tuskegee this
Hmm.
year with the bishop of the AME church. So it's a couple of AME churches that brought me down there. One thing I want to say is, when you go down there, you gotta, even when you go to 16th Street Baptist Church,
Hmm.
that was the church. Of course, we know of the church because that was the church that they had to bomb and kill the 4 little black girls. You can still see the burn marks on the church
Yep.
after all these years, from what I understand them to be, as it was said to me. But the other thing is that church, a lot of folks don't know of the Children's Crusade. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Children's Crusade was when they had children, second, third grade, that were part of the marches in Birmingham. It was just amazing. Give me a second here. I'm trying to find what day I got the Children's Crusade on. Hang on. 5/4, May 4th. Okay. So that is the Birmingham's Children's Crusade, right? That's
Hmm.
in the calendar on May 4th. And so it says, on this day in 1963, over 1,000 Black children from Birmingham, Alabama, had been arrested by the notorious Eugene Bull Connor. Many recognized the impact of Dr. King's effort regarding the protest in Birmingham. However, it was the idea of Reverend James Bevel that proved the most impactful. He advised King to recruit, train, and utilize Black children in the Birmingham protest. And then it just goes on and on and on. So, one of the things I will selfishly put this plug in is for the brothers, for you all to, the thing I did with this calendar as well, to literally purchase the calendars, not only number 4, but number 5. And that certainly wasn't my intent to come here and talk about selling calendars, right?
No, it was.
The interesting part is every one of these that I've created, I've sold out of, right? So, or always order them in bulks of 10,000. I've always sold out of them, just word of mouth. And so I would invite you all to get inside and
Yeah.
the women and the history. But when you go down there, understand that this is the way America was. Sometimes we get to, like our children born today, they
Mhm.
have no idea how hateful America was to us as Black people. And this is why DeSantis and these Republican governors and some liberal governors, this is why they want to ban Black history, you know. But believe me, the most beautiful thing I would tell you is we as Black folks didn't progress on our journey to freedom. Excuse the pun. We didn't make it this far on our journey to freedom only because it was all Black folks teaming together.
Yeah.
There was a lot of white folks who were very instrumental in our journey to freedom. So what I say to DeSantis and all of you, you're maniacal mofos. You are maniacal to think that you can eradicate our history, and then and can do it in such a way that you're gonna have some Black folks who will sign up for that nonsense. Well, I'm not that guy.
No.
Right?
No.
Don't you dare touch my history. And if you do, I swear to you, we can't absolutely go to war for that, bro. We can get out.
Yes.
No,
Yeah.
I'm saying to you,
Yeah.
when I lay hands on you physically, man, without question, I would.
Yeah.
I would. I'm just,
Yeah.
Because it is that sickening to me to think that you feel so empowered that that you think you qualify to deny me the understanding of my experience in this country. You done lost your rabbit ass mind. You done lost that.
Amen.
And
Yes.
believe me, you know what they say? It ain't fun when the rabbit got the gun. Right.
Woo!
Metaphorically speaking. So I'm not,
Yes. Yes.
I'm
Yes.
not talking like that. But so I would invite you all to when I did the calendars, I wanted them to be extremely affordable. So, for those who may be interested in Black Heritage Day, um, the calendars are $19.99 free shipping. And that's 366 days. You can go buy a monthly calendar, wall calendar for like 15,
Costs
16.
more than that. Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So you can go in the website if you're interested in the calendar.
Okay.
It's Black Heritage Days with an S.com. Black Heritage Days with an S.com. So blackheritagedays.com. Um, the only ones I got are the women's calendar. I have a few of Black Heritage Day 4 left. And when I say a few, I mean a few. So if you wanted number 4, Doc, just tell me, hey Carl, we want. I
Okay.
probably got like maybe 500 of number
Okay.
4 left. And I just save them. I just always want to save them for my kids and um, just special occasions. So if that's,
I
but I would, in the same, I want to give you this too. So for the 14 brothers who are going to Birmingham, if you want to, we can have a virtual presentation.
Yes. Okay. That would be
And,
great.
if they want to tune in and we sit down and talk history, and I'd love to be able to do it just to give them a foundation of understanding. And, there's a lot of things they'll pick up, but, if that works for you, it'll work for me. That would be my contribution to you for what you've given me today, Doc, because you have given me a lot, and I love you for that, Black man.
Thank you.
Love you for that. Thank you.
Yes, I will. I will take you up on the virtual portion of it because especially after we leave the museum and we're processing, I think I'll find the right time in there, and I would
But
definitely like to get.
I would say, Doc, we may want to do it before you go to the museum.
Okay, that's even better. Yeah, because you can tell us what we're. Okay, that's even better. Okay, gotcha. Well,
And
cool.
believe me, if you putting this thing together and you got a whole bunch of folks that says, hey, we want to be a part of the virtual Black History presentation, I'm cool with that.
Yeah. Okay, I like it. And it might be because there's only so many I'm able to take this first one, and I plan. The ultimate goal would be to do it, every quarter or every other month or something like that, where I'm bringing down folks and we have it systematically set up. But we'll see
Mhm.
where God leads it on that one. But absolutely, and we'll love to at least those 14 to get them a calendar so that they, and I'll figure out how to make sure I'll work with you to get that done. So. But thank you for being on today. I love you as well. I can't wait to spend some more time together. And as we continue to move forward, this has been one of the most amazing conversations that I've had thus far. I mean, and I never know when I get on what we're going to talk about. I send these for those of you who are watching, I send a set of questions out just so we can get started. We didn't talk about none of them.
Man, it is Doc, it is something beautiful about authenticity,
It
right?
is. It
And
is.
all I could tell you is, I think when people look at me on the surface, engineer, got an honorary doctorate from Clarkson, served on the board of trustees of a university, been on the advisory board for Mississippi College of Engineering, met with you know, been in the room, been on stage with Bill Gates. I've had some wonderful experience. I've flown with the Blue Angels, been on one of the most technologically advanced submarines in the world, went to St. Lucia and pulled kids out of there to now they're doctors in engineering. I mean, I've had some very beautiful experiences in life. And of course, all of my time in Seattle, especially within the NAACP, are just Hall of Fame moments in my life. Right.
Mhm.
I've just had some very, very beautiful, beautiful experiences. But through it all, man, just the humility of life, just to be authentically wanting to be a good brother. In the end, man, That's far more important than, chasing that bling, or you look at social media and everybody's trying to project that they're world travelers. Okay, okay. I mean, look, I'm not knocking it, man. Travel the world if that's what you want to do. Okay, but goddamn, don't go in debt trying to project the image. Just,
I love it. I love it.
just,
Oh my gosh. Yes.
oh no, man, it's a simple life, man. But it's been a good life. God has been good, and so when I say to you, I'm tired, I don't want to do anything, I've always felt that way.
Yeah.
But when the ancestors and God talk to me, it's time to go to work. And so, I didn't tell you this story, but one of the ways that I view my life is this. All of these people that we've read about. And so here's one of my, you can see this is Black Heritage Day 3. So it's got tabs in it of corrections I was making. So this is one of the old school ones from back in the day, right? So proud of it. But when I look at life today, I view it like all of our ancestors are looking down on all of us.
Mhm.
And there's times when they talk to me. Different ones talk to me. Mary McLeod Bethune and all of her mother wisdom. She talks to me sometimes. And then sometimes Nat Turner talks to me.
Love it. So good. That's so good. Yes.
Man, sometimes Charles Hamilton Houston is talking to me. Sometimes Baldwin is talking. So all of them always are whispering to me.
Mhm.
And they send me on certain paths. They really try to keep Nat away from me. you know. Um,
Oh my gosh.
so I just view that they're looking down, and so in the end, I'm going to meet them.
Mhm.
And Dr. B, I just want them to look at me and say, you know what, Carl, fam, you did a good job, bro.
You did
We
a good job.
appreciate you. You did a good job. That's all I need.
I love it. And I know they are. I know they are.
Oh
my gosh. You have enlightened this world and will continue to do so. And so thank you again for not only your time on this show, but just the time and the gift that you gave me just in the hour that we got to spend together. And I can't wait to do it again. And for those of you who are watching this show, I hope you take it. I hope you just sit quiet and take the advice of somebody who's been there. And we will have some other good ones. We will. So, invite you to, whatever, subscribe to the next one, however you do it. I don't know how to do it in social media, but this is just the beginning of something great. And so, again, thank you for being on the show. We look forward to talking to each and every single one of you. Don't forget, you are God's greatest gift. He loves you if you allow him to. And we can't wait to see you on the next one. You guys have an amazing, awesome, incredible day.